Hey guys, Maniac here. I'm here with some more Maniac reviews, and today for Maniac reviews, I'm gonna be reviewing Godzilla. So, let's go. Alright, so Godzilla, first things I want to mention is I want to apologize ahead of time for any maybe sniffling or coughing or sneezing. I have a bit of a cold, so that might possibly happen. Other than that, this was my most anticipated movie of the year, next to Guardians of the Galaxy, which will be coming out later this year. And yeah. So, let's start off with characters. So we have Bryan Cranston, aka Walter White, as you guys may know him, as Joe Brody. We have Aaron Taylor Johnson as Ford Brody. He was also the main character in Kick-Ass. He was Kick-Ass. Elizabeth Olsen as I think it's like Ellie Brody or something like that. Ken Watanabe as Dr. Daisuke Suzuki, basically the stereotypical Japanese guy who knows everything about what's going on and, you know, no one listens to because he's, you know, the crazy doctor, but then turns out to be right by the end of the film. And of course, David Stratham as, not David Statham, Stratham. He's basically, they never give a name for him, but he is kind of big in the movie as what I'm going to call him, the stereotypical army commander who thinks he knows everything with nuclear warfare and bombs. And then of course Godzilla and the Motos. Now the Motos are basically the creatures that Godzilla fights in this movie. Now this movie isn't, which made me very happy when I kind of got into the movie and they started everything up with the whole Motos storyline, is that it wasn't just Godzilla. It was, he actually was being good and stuff. So you know what, I'm just going to combine this with the storyline very quickly. Storyline is, after a nuclear meltdown that Joe Brody had predicted, he tries to find the truth of what the meltdown was after research for 15 years. And eventually they find out it's the Motos, and, you know, everything goes in a downward spiral as they awaken, these two Motos awaken, the female and the male, and Godzilla comes in and starts to try to defeat them because he's the natural balance. So as far as storyline goes, it's your typical Godzilla movie, which there's nothing wrong with. I love Godzilla movies. I'm not a huge Godzilla fan, but I am a Godzilla fan. I love Godzilla, and like I said, I've been waiting for this movie for a while now, and like, my hype was unreal going into this movie. But the one thing that I had kept in the back of my mind is make sure you don't get that hype crushed. And it didn't do this. So before I go any further, storyline, it's great. You know, it's the usual Godzilla storyline. But let's go on to negatives and positives. Alright, so negatives and positives for this movie is that basically, for negatives, there is a few things that I don't think were necessary that they did in the movie. I'm not gonna say them because it might spoil some stuff. I can say one for an example, and that is the first time that the Godzilla and the male Moto meet. They're about to fight, right? And it's like this epic scene where they're like getting ready to fight and they're getting ready to kill each other. And then it cuts to a joke of the main character, Ford Brody, son, just kind of sitting there watching the TV and watching these guys fight. You never actually get to see that fight, and it kind of really disappointed me because, and they do that a few times in the movie too. There's about to be a big fight, and they cut from it. They go to something else, less important in my opinion, because this is Godzilla, not watch Ford Brody run around and try to stop the Motos. Like, this is a movie about Godzilla, or I'm hoping it's that way considering the title. But as far as, that's like my only kind of issue with the movie, but that easily got subsided when everything else went going. It was such a great storyline. It was a perfect combination for me for Godzilla and monster fighting and an actual like kind of good storyline, cheesy storyline. It's those cheesy, like there was a few like really stereotypical moments, like for one, the Japanese guy, the crazy scientist, him and the stereotypical army commander are arguing about whether or not they should just have Godzilla fight the Motos, or if they should bomb the Motos and Godzilla. And he's, you know, the doctor's just saying, you know, don't use nuclear warfare, since the Motos are attracted to nuclear activity for whatever reason. Anyways, though, he pulls out this watch, he opens it up, you know, and he says, "Look at this." Guy looks at it, it stops, and he's like, and, you know, he gives off this date, and the commander goes, "Hiroshima," which is, of course, the big, you know, nuclear meltdown, or was it the bombing? No, it was the nuclear meltdown. That was Pearl Harbor. Anyways, though, and he goes, "This was my father's," and then walks away, and I'm just like, okay, so is he like doing this for his dad or something? Like, it's just this really random moment. "This is a stopwatch from my dad during Hiroshima." Like, okay, just like, it's really like stereotypical stuff, and I loved it. All right, it's the stuff that I wanted to see, and I got it. All right, I couldn't complain, especially at the end when they're actually like, when the actual like monster fight scenes are happening. Like, you know, there was what I was talking about where they cut from him, but at the end they make up for that for sure, because there's so much cool stuff. And the other thing is, I want to mention the kaiju in this movie. So the kaiju are basically, you know, monsters. Godzilla, of course, the main one. They didn't screw up Godzilla like they did in 1998. One of the things I was worried about is that they might have screwed up Godzilla, because I hadn't seen that much of him. You don't see that much of him in the trailers. You just see him roaring and stuff. The other thing I was scared about is that they weren't gonna have his laser beam, you know, his heat ray and stuff. Because there was a part in the fight scene where I was like, why aren't you using the laser beam? Don't tell me that they took out the laser beam. And then he uses it. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. The Motos are really cool. I actually like the whole idea of the Motos, where they're nuclear feeding guys. You know, they don't feed off of like humans and stuff. They feed off of nuclear waste, I guess, or whatever. And like, there's some really like stereotypical moments, and it's awesome. All right, I can't complain. This movie, there was only the one thing that I said I complain about. Now there's another thing I would complain about, but I can't say it because it's the biggest spoiler to the dang movie. But other than that, this movie, I highly recommend it. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5. I love this movie. This is one of my, out of, I think almost all the 60 reviews I've done, this, Wolf of Wall Street, and Avengers have made my top 3 list for favorite movies, alright? All the other movies that I've seen are kind of like, you know, they're good, but I don't know if I want to watch them again. This is a movie where I want to go back to the theater and watch it 10 times over. Just sleep in the theater and watch the movie, alright? That's how good the movie is. I can't complain. I highly recommend this. This was probably one of the best movie experiences, especially after all the letdowns I've had with Spider-Man and like any of the ones that were supposed to be, you know, the big movies. They all let me down, and this one, I was scared of that exact same thing happening. It didn't happen. It lived up to my hopes, and I can't complain. So it's a 5 out of 5. I highly recommend you guys go see this. But I thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, favorite, like, and all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys next time, or whatever I make. Hey, this guy, peace out.